I found this article that looked at DNA transfer on smug baggies. I've been thinking about other ways that someone's DNA can end up at a crime scene. The DNA on the swabs from Tara's essay kit contained her DNA as well as profiles of 2 to 3 others. The research literature tells us that DNA found at crime scenes can be related to the crime or unrelated to the crime. That means that multiple people's DNA profiles can be found. But presence of a profile does not necessarily equal relevance to the crime itself. Some people are more likely to leave their DNA behind. Skin shedding status is a factor, with men aged between 18 and 45 being more likely to be a high shedder. There are also racial differences in skin shedding status. Black skin cells contain larger melanosomes and are more pigmented. Studies have found that individuals with darker skin tones often exhibit a higher rate of spontaneous shedding compared to Caucasian people. As it relates to this case, it is possible that Faust's DNA was transferred from a surface or item. Looking at his history, Faust was involved in the shrug scene around the time of the crime. Since Athens is a college town, I would be surprised if Tara and her friends did not partake in recreational party shrugs. I also found it interesting that there was no mention of her toxicology results at trial. The other obvious way that Faust's DNA could have been on Tara would be consensual contact, or DNA transfer from being in the same environment. Like, for example, a Mexican restaurant. Somewhere that they may have had an encounter or shared a cigarette. In that example, it's highly unlikely that Faust would remember, especially 23 years later. We know that the defense wasn't able to go into the issue of consent at trial. It was my understanding that they would have needed to provide evidence if they were to make a motion to allow that argument. I can't imagine how they would be able to prove it 23 years later. It seems unreasonable to expect that. Both Edrick Faust and Chris Melton were identified as contributors to the DNA profiles extracted from the oral swabs. If we treat the evidence as having equal weight, I can't see how Edrick was assigned the label of perpetrator, but Chris wasn't. I also can't understand why the other unknown profile was ignored. Each layer of information, each seemingly small detail that has been left out, leads me to an unfortunate possible conclusion. Maybe I am naive, or maybe I am privileged, or both, but my mind does not immediately jump to investigative misconduct. This appears to be the most probable answer in this case. Stay tuned for part 2, where I'll explore another possibility related to contamination that could explain why Faust's DNA was on the swabs.